You're playing in the playground or the park with your friends, kicking a ball, shooting down the slide, playing on the swings, playing in the only way children can play, innocently, having fun. Maybe a bit of let's pretend, maybe even some role play. And eventually it's time for your friends to peel off, go home to their parents for tea, and so you take the shortcut through the woods that you've taken dozens of times before. Only this time you don't come out the other side. The trees thicken, the branches cloy around you, the briar and the thorns snag at your clothes and your skin, causing scratches that bleed, and when you finally emerge into a clearing with flowers that look unlike flowers you've ever seen, they seem to bear small babies' faces in their centres, with a deer that scampers by appears to have unearthly, long and sharpened antlers. You have entered the realm of the true fae, the hedge. You are lost, but you're not the only one that's lost. The soldier that's fighting on the front line, firing his rifle like a good little boy, shooting at the enemy, running screaming from the enemy, separated from his fellow men, becoming lost in the trenches, in the mud, in the thick of it, in the smoke, in the noxious gas. And when he emerges, he is not on the battlefield that he knew. He is on a battlefield manned by toy soldiers, with even larger toy generals commanding the action. He is also lost. When you, an adult, decide that you're going to go for a walk one night, and you walk down streets that you've always known, it's an urban environment. You walk down alleys, you walk past buildings you've known since your childhood. You're not only familiar with this place, you are part of this place. It knows you, you know it. And if anything ever happens to you, people would realise, people would notice you are missing. You're popular. You're always there at the local bar. Everyone knows your name. Everyone knows your drink. But this time, the alley takes a turn, and before you know it, you're in a different world. You're in the world of the true fae. You are also lost in a world that is not your own. For many years you stay in that realm, that alien, inhospitable place, where you are made into a plaything, where you are tormented, potentially tortured, where you are treated to the alien whims of the fae, until maybe one of them lets you go for the fun of it. Or maybe you escape, hatching some ingenious plot. Or perhaps you just find them missing one day, and you wander free. But free you become, passing back through the same knots and briars, the same alleys, the same trenches that you got lost in all those years before. And when you emerge back into the world you once knew, things haven't changed. Your parents have raised a child that was always more obedient and intelligent than you were. The people at the bar continued serving you drinks while you were gone, laughed at your jokes a little more. Maybe the new version of you had a more stable relationship. And the soldier, when he returns home from his war, finding his ID papers just don't work anymore, finds that he was given a hero's welcome, that he was awarded a medal, that he has been replaced, that no one missed the real man. You are now a changeling. You are now lost in your world, replaced by a fetch. The true fae have had their fun with you, but they're not done yet, and neither are you. Perhaps you can reclaim what you once were. Maybe you can make something better of yourself. Perhaps you can recover from the trauma that you have endured, or maybe you have to go on enduring it. Maybe you just have to live it and associate with people who have suffered like you have suffered. People who know the worlds you have known, the creatures that you have seen, torments that you have experienced. This is Changeling the Lost. And the book I hold in my hand right now is Changeling the Lost, 2nd edition. Changeling the Lost is a deeply personal, horrifying, and beautiful game. It's a game for the Chronicles of Darkness. Its 2nd edition only came out in the last couple of months. It was successfully kickstarted, and you can still buy the Prestige edition on Indie Press Revolution, though you can buy the regular version on drivethrurpg.com, in print or PDF. And whenever I like to tell people about Changeling the Lost, I always give them a little bit of a flavour through story. Because, perhaps unlike any other horror game, people can relate to the feeling of being lost. Almost everyone, when they were a child, they were in the supermarket with their parents, they turned around, their parents were gone, and they panicked and they cried, and they had to find a shop assistant and ask, "Where is my mummy? Where is my daddy?" And their voice was called out over the tannoy, and they were embarrassed, and their parents came to them, and they were either relieved or they were angry. Everyone has been through an experience like that, and Changeling the Lost sees that experience writ large. You are, for all intents and purposes, kidnapped, but no one notices you are missing, or those that do are quietly hushed. Because the thing that replaces you, a fetch, goes on and lives your life potentially in a more obedient way than you ever did, in a way that people find palatable. So your parents don't go looking for you. Your fellow soldiers don't report you as missing, absent without leave. Your friends at the bar don't suddenly wonder, "I wonder if something happened to her as she walked through the alleys last night." Nothing's ever happened to her before, because you turn up, you have your drinks, you have your conversations, you return. And that's just one small fragment of Changeling the Lost. Often I focus on that idea of being lost, it's in the title, as the core theme of it, but there is so much more to this game. And this video, a bit of an overview of those themes, is set to explain them to you. Because there's more to it than just the initial trauma of being lost and returning. That's just the prologue of this game. Getting to meet, getting to know other lost, such as yourself, other individuals who have suffered like you have, is another great part, forming those relationships. Perhaps trying to reclaim the life you lost, or forging a new one. Making a name for yourself in the courts of the Fae, named after the seasons, depending on your will, your whims. The seeming to which you belong, the kith that you may belong to as well, if you were blessed with a kith. Perhaps you were a darkling. Perhaps you were an ogre. Perhaps you were of the summer court. Perhaps you were of autumn. Maybe you're a wizened. There are so many options. There's 3 layers that you can apply to your characters in this game at its most basic level. And I enjoy that. I like having layers to a character that are built into character creation. And Changeling the Lost does this incredibly effectively, because each part, the seeming, the court, the kith, each feel distinct. They make your character have a very real nuance, and of course they affect the powers you have access to from a system perspective. From a setting perspective, there are a whole load of lovely features that are unique to Changeling. Whether it is the layers of politics and philosophy that exist within Changeling the Lost, whether it's the alien nature of goblin markets, goblin roads, and the hedge and the true Fae, whether it's the fact that more likely than not at some point you're going to be hunted by a huntsman, the ancient playthings of the Fae, that they set loose to recover you, great and terrible creatures that wish to snatch you back and drag you kicking and screaming to your former masters, so that playtime can start again. There's an awful lot of dark material in Changeling the Lost. I think that should go without saying, But it isn't dark in a vulgar fashion. It isn't gory. It isn't horrific for the sake of being horrifying. It is dark in the sense that it is relatable. People fear being lost, people fear being forgotten, but more than that, they fear being lost and no one noticing. One of the greatest fears that humanity experiences is the idea of dying and no one caring, no one remembering. It's vestigial. And in Changeling, it's ever present. You want to run to your parents and say, "This creature is hunting me." You want to run to your friends and say, "I have been trapped for the last X number of months or years. Why have you not noticed?" But you can't, for a myriad of reasons. One, they may not believe you. Two, you're going to put them in danger. That's one of the great sacrifices of Changing the Lost. The people you tell, the people you enlighten as to the real world, the world of the Fae, and the way they like to play with ours, these godlike beings, the more they're put in danger. Perhaps they will be snatched next. Maybe they'll just be snuffed out. Changing the Lost is a game with a massive amount of depth. It uses the D10 storytelling system, with which you're no doubt familiar. 8s and above are successes. But there's so much more to it than just being a game of rolling dice and playing characters and fighting bad guys. This is undoubtedly one of the most nuanced, deep, and disturbing games that Onyx Path Publishing has put out. And I give all credit to the developers, the writing team, both of first edition and second edition, for making this one of the finest role-playing games I have ever ran, ever played, and simply material that moves me by reading it. You can play Changeling light-hearted. You can play a game on the run where your characters are trying to evade someone who wants to imprison them. You can even play it in the reverse, where the Changelings want to get their revenge and take the fight back to the Fae, the Huntsman, and the Lost, who turncoat on their allies. But you can play it as a deeply personal, deeply moving game, where your characters are genuinely suffering, where you get to experience and get to roleplay the lives of people who have potentially been through great trauma, and you can assist in their recovery or assist in the recovery of others. As it's perhaps true that lost can only relate to other lost. I think if you pick a copy of Changing the Lost 2nd edition up, you will be blown away by its beauty. It is a fantastic book to look at. Just got wonderful art throughout. Through the way it's written, one of the best written books we have ever produced. But to sit down and play it with people you know and trust will be one of the greatest role-playing game experiences you have ever had. So please give it a look. Changing the Lost 2nd edition. It's available on DriveThruRPG, in print on demand and PDF, and while stocks last, it is available on Indie Press Revolution in Prestige Edition. You can also buy a starter set for it, also on DriveThruRPG, and you can buy condition cards and journals, both on DriveThruRPG and Redbubble. Links will be in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.